yourself first. Think when a woman is truly attracted to you, most men get strong. Watch closely as we review the subtle, real indicators of sexual attraction and once women do that, most men completely misread. Stay tuned, you'll never see attraction the same way again. When men try to understand the real indicators of sexual attraction, they often look for dramatic behavior, bold flirtation, obvious seduction, or exaggerated cues, but genuine female desire rarely expresses itself through theatrical performance. Instead, it unfolds through psychological shifts that are gradual, layered, and deeply tied to emotional comfort. A woman who feels a rising sense of attraction tends to relate through subtle micro behaviors the way her eyes linger a fraction longer than necessary. The slight softening of her facial expressions when she listens to you speak, or the almost undetectable changes in her breathing and voice tone that occur when emotional engagement takes place. These cues appear inconsistent or understand to men who expect loud signs, yet their subtlety actually makes them more authentic. Real desire isn't typically an impulsive announcement. It's an embodied state in which her body language, attention, and emotional presence begin along toward one focal point. You, by understanding these softer indicators, men avoid misinterpreting authenticity as passiveness and discover how attraction actually manifests in female psyche. A major sign of sexual attraction is the growing tendency for a woman to sustain or prolong interaction with a man she finds compelling even when there is no practical need to do so. This doesn't mean she fabrically keeps the conversation alive out of politeness. It means she naturally gravitates toward continuation, engaging with more depth and attention than the situation requires. She may respond quickly, introduce new topics when the conversation seems to conclude, or invite elaboration by asking thoughtful follow-up questions. The sustained engagement reflects psychological investment, which is one of the strongest differentiates between genuine interest and mere friendliness. Many men confuse politeness with attraction, but investment cannot be faked for long. Politeness is shallow and short-lived, whereas attraction can build a woman to continually seek emotional or intellectual proximity. This pattern of extending interaction often reveals far more than an isolated flirtatious gesture ever could. A deeply overlooked indicator of desire is a selective vulnerability, a psychological opening that emerges only with individual a woman feels safe and drawn to. Unlike oversharing or emotional dumping, selective vulnerability is subtle, controlled, and unnatural. She may begin revealing details about her inner world, personal experiences, subtle insecurities, or nuanced opinions that she wouldn't normally express to someone she views as nearly an acquaintance. This emotional opening is a type of psychological intimacy that often precedes physical intimacy. For many women, it's not simply about sharing facts, it's about letting someone in. For men expecting sexual desire to show up as a purely physical cues, this emotional transparency may not register as attraction, yet it's one of the strongest signals that a woman is allowing both her emotional and physical energy towards someone. This form of vulnerability is an intimate marriage, signaling that she sees you as safe, intrigued, and worthy of deeper access. Proximity, physical, spatial, and psychological, is one of the most reliable and consistent ways a woman communicates attraction. Yet it's also one of the most misinterpreted because it seldom looks dramatic. Instead of boldly moving closer or touching someone, Outright, women often display attractions through nuanced shapes, choosing a state closer to you than necessary, annually her body toward you even when engaged in a group conversation or finding a smart standing random reasons to be physically near you. Human attraction has a special component and women rarely close physical distance with individuals they feel indifferent toward. What looks like coincidence is often subconscious, essentially driven by comfort and desire. Men seeking obvious signals amidst this entirely not realizing that the decision to move closer, subtle as it may be, is one of the strongest silent expressions of interest in human social behavior. Pairing behavior, small adjustments to appearance such as soothing hair, touching the neck, adjusting posture, or fixing clothing are deeply rooted in evolutionary signaling. They are not exaggerated attempts to impress. The automatic subconscious responses triggered when a woman becomes aware of how she is perceived by someone she desires. These moments reflect hardened self-consciousness and not insecurity. They communicate that she wants to present her best self, even if she is not actively trying to appear productive. Because these behaviors are subtle and often socially acceptable, men frequently overlook them, assuming the merely habitual movements. However, when these gestures occur repeatedly, specifically during interaction with one particular man, they serve as excellent indicators of underlying sexual interest. We will contrast the difference between how she acts around you and how she behaves with others as one of the most dependable signs of attraction. Attraction doesn't manifest universally, it manifests selectively. This means the key indicator isn't what she does, but who she does it for. If a woman becomes more expressive, attentive, genuine, playful, or emotionally open with you compared to others, this contrast carries a significant meaning. Men often search for universal signs all women show, but individual contrast is far more accurate. A woman may be friendly with everyone, but if her demeanor noticeably warms, slows, softens, or deepens around you, that shape reflects selective psychological engagement, one of the clearest markers of your desire. Curiosity is a psychological expression of attraction that goes far beyond casual interest. When a woman feels drawn toward someone, she becomes more invested in understanding his values, experiences, beliefs, and emotional world. She asks deeper questions, not surface level filler, but meaningful inquiries that signal she wants to understand the man behind the surface. Curiosity takes effort, it requires cognitive and emotional energy. People don't invest their energy into those they view as irrelevant. Women who feel desire often remember details, revisit past conversations, and show authentic interest in how a man thinks. The type of curiosity reveals upon more than any flirtatious gesture because it reflects a desire for both emotional and physical compatibility. Like and subscribe. Playful teasing is another powerful but frequently misunderstood indicator of attraction. When a man gently challenges you, marks you lightly, or engages in humorous back and forth exchanges, she is establishing tension. One of the psychological building blocks of desire, this teasing isn't hostility, it's a social mechanism used to test rapport, stimulate emotional interaction, and create a dynamic sense of connection. Many men interpret teasing as a discouragement or disrespect, not recognizing that a playful antagonism often emerges only when there's a comfort and emotional engagement. The purpose of teasing is to create an energetic, emotionally stimulating environment that pairs well with attraction. Mirroring the subconscious act of matching someone's body language, tone, pacing, or movements is one of the clearest psychological indicators of alignment and interaction. Humans mirror those they feel connected to or want to bond with, and women especially display mirroring when they feel drawn to someone. She may adopt your posture without realizing it, match your humor style, mirror your rhythm of speech, or reflect your emotional tone. This behavior isn't intentional, it's automatic. Men often overlook mirroring because it adultly makes it feel insignificant, yet it's one of the most deeply rooted nonverbal signals of connection. When mirroring occurs consistently, it's one of the strongest signs that attraction isn't only present but growing. Compliments that go beyond appearance, those focus on personality, emotional presence, intelligence, humor, or unique strengths, often reveal a deeper form of desire. Women rarely give a personalized compliments to men they feel indifferent toward. When she highlights traits that reflect who you are rather than who you like, she's signaling admiration and psychological interest. These compliments are deliberate and specific, not generic, and sometimes overlook these deeper compliments and mistakenly focusing on physical ones, but in reality, psychological admiration is a stronger predictor of sexual attraction because it indicates that her interest has emotional depth rather than surface level appreciation. A woman's vocal modulation around someone she's attracted to is one of the most under-discussed but scientifically validated signs of desire. When she feels drawn to a man, her voice often undergoes a subtle but measurable transformation. It may soften, slow down, become more melodic, or shift to a slightly higher pitch. These changes occur because emotional arousal influences the autonomic nervous system, which in turn affects vocal production. She may not realize she's doing it, and she certainly isn't intentionally adjusting her voice to be seductive. The shift emerges naturally as a byproduct of heightened emotional awareness. Men often overlook vocal cues entirely because they focus on visual behaviors, yet voice is one of the most accurate mirrors of inner state. If her tone becomes warmer, more playful, more intimate, or more emotionally textured when speaking to you compared to others, that vocal contrast is a strong indicator of authentic attraction, not performance and not politeness, but genuine embodied desire. Another significant indicator of sexual attraction is the emergence of conversational loops where a woman keeps returning to earlier points, inside jokes, or shared topics even after the conversation has naturally drifted. This behavior reflects an inner desire to create continuity, a psychological thread binding her to the moment and the person she's engaging with. These loops serve as a sort of form of emotional tutoring, allowing her to strengthen connection without appearing overtly forward. Instead of passively responding, she actively will callbacks and references to previous statements, showing that she is mentally engaged and emotionally invested. These loops are different from basic conversation skills. They function more like microbonds that accumulate over time. The more she revisits themes connected to you, the more she signals that she enjoys the dynamic and wants to prolong it. When men misinterpret this as coincidence, they miss the deeper truth. Repeating shared references is an unconscious method of defining rapport, and people almost never do it with someone anyone, they're indifferent to physical openness often expressed through the removal of barriers is a core indicator of sexual attraction because it reflects both comfort and psychological availability. When a woman feels desire, she instinctively reduces a physical obstacle between her and the person she's drawn to. This might involve something as small as uncrossing her arm, positioning her bag, or moving her drink aside so nothing sits between you. It could also involve leaning forward, angling her torso toward you, or opening her posture in a way that exposes the vulnerable areas of the body, such as the neck or torso. These gestures are subtle but meaningful because they signal that she feels safe and engaged. Humans create barriers for protection, physical and emotional, so when those barriers lower attraction is often the reason why expecting a bold advances often overlook this small adjustment, not recognizing that openness and exposure are among the strongest nonverbal indicators of underlying desire. Consistency over time is far more revealing than any signal behavior, and when a woman is genuinely attracted, consistency becomes a pattern. This consistency isn't about constant messaging or excessive attention, rather, it's about the reliable repetition of engagement. As she shows up again and again, not randomly, not out of obligation, but because attraction pulls her back even when life is busy or circumstances shift. As she finds way to reconnect, to maintain the dynamic, to keep the energy alive. This long-term behavioral pattern is one of the clearest distinctions between real desire and passive interest. Anyone can flirt once, but a true attraction expresses itself repeatedly through effort, responsiveness, and a steady presence. When men fixate on short bursts of flirtation or isolated compliments, they misjudge the situation. Patterns review towards authentic desire is measured by occurrence, not intensity. Nervousness may seem counterintuitive, but it's one of the most authentic indicators of sexual attraction because desire hidens self-awareness. A woman who feels emotionally and physically stimulated may exhibit signs of sudden anxiety, slight fidgeting, nervous laughter, momentary hesitation before responding, or unexpected quietness. These behaviors aren't signs of discomfort, they're signs of hidden emotional stakes. When someone matters, a demand becomes more alert, more cautious, more emotionally reactive. This nervousness is different from fear. It's a form of emotional arousal unique to attraction. Men often miss inapparent nervousness as a disinterest when in reality it reflects inner excitement. Nervousness arises not because she wants to escape the interaction, but because she wants it to go well, and that desire introduces a natural tension into her behavior. Boundary setting is an often misunderstood indicator that can actually signal genuine desire rather than rejection. When a woman likes someone, she may articulate her boundaries more clearly, what she is comfortable with, what she values, what she expects, not to create distance but to protect the potential connection. This behavior reflects emotional investment. She clarifies her limits because she wants the dynamic to develop in a healthy direction. Boundaries aren't obstacle to attraction. They are evidence of a seriousness. A woman who feels nothing may remain vague or indifferent, but a woman who's attracted will often be more more explicit about how she wants the interaction to unfold. This desire for clarity emerges because she sees a potential and wants to ensure the connection is aligned with her emotional, psychological, and physical comfort. Eye engagement is one of the most revealing and universally consistent indicators of desire. A woman who's attracted may not maintain lie-inness stares that tends to happen in movies, not real life, but she'll often engage in repeated brief glances, soft looks, or micro expressions and the eyes that signal emotional attunement. Eye contact is a gateway for emotional connection, and humans rarely choose to make it repeatedly. As someone they don't feel drawn to, her eyes may light up when she sees you. She may hold your gaze an extra moment before looking away, or she may glance at your left during conversation. These tiny visual cues are incredibly revealing because they're difficult to fake. Unlike verbal communication, the eyes reflects unconscious emotional states. If her gaze repeatedly returns to you, especially in group settings, this is a powerful sign that attraction is present and active. Expressiveness, emotional, facial, and gestural tends to increase significantly when a woman feels sexual attraction. This doesn't mean exaggerated enthusiasm or dramatic emotional reactions, but rather a deeper, more textured form of engagement. Her facial expressions may become more animated, her smiles more genuine, her eyebrows more reactive, and her emotional responses more attuned. Attraction stimulates the emotional centers of the brain, which naturally increases expressiveness. She may tilt her head more, use her hands when speaking, or show more visible warmth in her face. These changes reflect psychological presence. They show she is not just participating in the interaction, but experiencing it. Men who expect over seduction often overlook emotional expressiveness, yet it's one of the strongest indicators of real desire because it reveals inner activation rather than external performance. Selective disclosure, the act of sharing personal stories, meaningful memories, or emotionally loaded experiences, is a significant indicator of attraction because it signals trust. When a woman chooses to reveal pieces of her inner world, she is experiencing both emotional vulnerability and relational intention. She might share childhood memories, past experiences that shaped her, private dreams, or concerns she normally keeps guarded. This type of disclosure is distinct from general conversation. It carries emotional weight and personal significance. She doesn't share these things randomly. They're reserved for people who matter. Men who focus only on flirtatious behaviors often miss the deeper truth. Emotional intimacy is frequently the earliest and most reliable signal of sexual interest for women. When she opens the emotional door even slightly, it usually means attraction is already present. Other competitiveness around other women often appears when a woman feels desire, although it rarely looks overt or confrontational. Instead, she may adjust her posture, show a bit more confidence in her presence, or become slightly more engaged when other women enter the dynamic. She might assert her conversational presence more strongly, highlight positive aspects of her personality, or position herself physically closer to you. These behaviors aren't about jealousy. They're about signaling value. Evolutionary humans can be sought for the attention of those they desire. Women express this through nonverbal cues rather than direct confrontation. A man Women who misinterpret these signals as coincidence often fail to see that the hidden engagement isn't random, it's an instinctive response to perceived competition. Digital communication patterns offer some of the clearest modern indicators of female sexual attraction, yet many men fail to interpret them correctly because they focus only on the frequency of messages rather than the quality behind them. A woman who feels desire tends to communicate with intention. Her responses aren't robotic or minimal but thoughtful, responsive, and emotionally engaged. Even if she is not consistent with texting, the moments she does engage carry weight. She asks meaningful questions. She replies with depth rather than short phrases, and she puts effort into keeping the emotional rhythm alive. Her messages may include subtle humor, emojis that carry emotional tone, callbacks to previous conversations, or small glimpses into her daily life. The digital breadcrumbs aren't accidental. They're signals of investment, attraction, and the digital era doesn't always express itself through volume but through emotional energy, consistency of engagement, and the willingness to maintain a relational thread even across distance and time. If she is actively reinforcing that thread, it's really casual. Physical touch is often misunderstood by men because they expect grand gestures, holding hands, or their physical invitations, when in reality most women express attraction through very subtle forms of contact. These micro touches can include a light tap on the arm during laughter, a brief hand brush while walking, a playful push during conversation, or even the adjustment of a length on your clothing. These touches often appear accidental or socially acceptable, yet they're intentional enough to test comfort without risking rejection or awkwardness. The purpose isn't necessarily to escalate into physical intimacy immediately, but to gauge the emotional and physical response. Touch is a form of communication that bypasses a language entirely, and women tend to use that carefully and selectively. When she initiates small, repeated touches, especially when she doesn't do this with others, it indicates a desire to create closeness and to feel the energy of physical proximity. A woman who feels genuine desire tends to show hidden emotional attunement and increased sensitivity to your emotional state, your tone, and the subtle shift in your mood. She may ask how you're feeling, show concern when something seems off, or provide a supportive responses that go beyond superficial empathy. This attentiveness isn't generic passion, it's a selective emotional investment. She becomes more responsive to your stories, more affected by your struggles, and more appreciative of your victories. Emotional attunement is powerful because it signals that she's not just interested in who you are today, but in how you experience your life. This form of connection is one of the deepest signs of psychological attraction and often precedes physical intimacy. Men who expect sexual desire to appear only as a physical cues overlook the fact that emotional attunement is one of the most telling indicators of genuine inner femininity. Modulation is another subtle but meaningful indicator of attraction. When a woman likes someone, she often becomes slightly more feminine in her demeanor, not by dramatically alerting her personality, but through softening her tone, becoming warmer and expressive expression showing a gentler gestures or displaying nurturing behavior. The shift is natural, not forced. It occurs because emotional instruction activates aspects of her identity. She feels safe expressing around someone she desires. This doesn't mean she becomes a submissive or fundamentally changes herself. Rather, she leans into a side of herself that feels aligned with connection and intimacy. Feminine modulation is an instinctive response, not a strategic one, and it often appears only around someone she feels drawn to on an emotional and physical level. And prioritization is one of the strongest and most concrete indicators of sexual attraction because it reflects cost. Time is limited, valuable, and tightly managed in modern life. When a woman rearranges her schedule, makes space for interaction, or shows willingness to adjust her routine even in small ways. It communicates genuine interest. This doesn't mean she drops everything or becomes instantly available. Instead, it demonstrates flexibility and openness. Structure motivates people to create proximity and a willingness to invest time. Reveal intention. A woman who's indifferent may communicate sporadically or participate passively, but a woman who prioritizes time even in a small increment is demonstrating that the relationship or potential connection holds emotional significance. Another but powerful indicator of desire is impression management. The small ways a woman tries to present her best self and your presence. This doesn't necessarily mean she dramatically changes her style or puts on a performance. Rather, she highlights aspects of herself she wants you to notice. She might casually mention her accomplishments, demonstrate her kindness, show off her sense of humor, or subtly display confidence in areas she feels confident about. These behaviors are bragging their selective self-presentation. Humans instinctively elevate their positive qualities and those they are attracted to, not to manipulate, but signal value and compatibility. When a woman emphasizes a specific strength around one particular man, it's rarely coincidental. That dynamics offer profound insight into attraction. When a woman feels drawn to someone, she tends to laugh more easily, more genuinely, and more frequently, not because everything is funny, but because emotional engagement guidance responsiveness. Her laughter may come quickly, carry warmth, or legacy longer than usual. She may laugh at jokes others find ordinary or appreciate humor she wouldn't normally react to. This isn't about politeness, it's about emotional resonance. Laughter is a bonding behavior that signals a psychological alignment. When she laughs in a way that seems unique to your interactions, it's a potent indicator that she feels a special connection that goes beyond casual friendliness. Protective behavior is another indicator that often goes unnoticed. When a woman feels desire, she becomes sadly protective of your reputation, your emotion, or your social image, and not in an obvious or possessive way, but in small gestures that show she cares. She might defend you in conversations, clarify misunderstandings about you, support your decisions, or speak positively about you when you're not present. This protective instinct reflects emotional investment, not ownership. Humans protect when they value, and when a woman takes steps, big or small, to support or defend you, it reveals that you occupy a meaningful space in her emotional world. Initiation of shared experiences is a strong sign because it shows both imagination and intention. A woman who's attracted may suggest activities casually, propose plans or draw plans about doing something together. She might say things like, "We should try that place, I think you'd love this," or "I want to show you something." These aren't empty statements, they're invitation for continuity. Shared experiences create emotional bonding, and people who are attracted seek opportunities, direct or subtle, to extend the relationship into the future. Even hypothetical suggestions indicate she's imagining what connection with you might look like, which is a key psychological marker of desire. If this video was helpful to you, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future videos. Memory investment is one of the most telling indicators because it reflects a deep cognitive engagement. When a woman remembers small details, your preferences, your opinions, your personal histories, your routines, it shows that she's paying attention with intention. Attraction sharpens memory because the brain assigns the greatest significance to information connected to emotional interest. She may recall minor things you said weeks ago. Remember your favorite foods or reference inside jokes long after the conversation happened. This isn't an accident, it's a psychological side effect of desire. People don't store intimate details about individuals they don't care about. When her memory becomes selective and precise, it's one of the strongest signs that she's emotionally and subconsciously prioritizing you. Curiosity-driven questioning is one of the clearest psychological markers of female attraction, especially when the questions go beyond surface level topics. A woman who feels genuine desire doesn't simply participate in conversation, she delves deeper into your worldview, your past experiences, your emotional patterns, and your personal ambitions. This type of questioning isn't interrogation, it's investment. She's gathering emotional data, trying to understand who you are beneath the social facade. Desire makes her more curious about your upbringing, your values, and your insecurities, and not because she wants leverage, but because intimacy thrives on understanding. When she asks follow-up questions, remembers past answers, and circles back to previous topics, it reveals the same cognitive attention. People rarely pursue this level of depth with someone they see as merely casual. Curiosity is a subconscious attempt to close the emotional gap, and it signifies that she sees long-term potential, whether emotional or physical. The more personal the questions become, and the more she reveals about herself in return, the stronger the underlying attraction. A significant but often overlooked indicator of sexual attraction is behavioral openness, specifically her willingness to show unfiltered sides of herself. Most people present polished versions of who they are in everyday interaction, especially around individuals they don't trust or desire. But a woman who feels drawn to a man gradually loosens this social armor, or she may reveal her vulnerabilities, express controversial opinions, admit insecurities, or share private stories. She might behave goofier, more spontaneous, or more imperfectly than she normally would. This openness isn't random, it's a psychological sign that she feels emotionally safe, which is a core prerequisite for both romantic and sexual connection. Men often misread this because they assume sexual desire must be expressed through overt flirtation or physical signals. In reality, when a woman allows you into her unfiltered reality, is expressing a level of intimacy that aligns closely closely with desire, even if it's not explicitly sexual in nature. Emotional nakedness typically comes before physical intimacy. Behavioral contrast is another powerful indicator of attraction that surfaces when a woman acts differently around one particular man compared to others. This may appear as increased nervousness, heightened cheerfulness, a deeper focus, or more pleasant behavior depending on her emotional wiring. The key is the contrast and not the specific behavior. For example, a naturally confident woman might become softer or more cautious around someone she desires because their stakes feel higher. Conversely, a generally quiet woman might become more expressive or engaged because she feels energized by the connection. This contrast reflects inner emotional activation. The body and mind behave differently when desire is present. Men often overlook this because they interpret behavior at face value rather than relative value. The psychological reality is a simple attraction alter patterns when her reactions to you deviate from her baseline, especially in ways she doesn't display with others. It's one of the most reliable signs that she is experiencing a significant emotional and sexual interest. A more advanced indicator is escalation reciprocity. The way she responds with you suddenly increase emotional and physical intimacy. Women who feel genuine desire typically reciprocate and measure but unmistakable ways. If you share a more personal detail, she shares something equally vulnerable. If you make a light, respectful physical gesture, she responds with openness or even initiates one in return. If you deepen the emotional tone of the conversation, she matches it rather than withdrawing. This reciprocity is crucial because it demonstrates both comfort and interest. A woman who is not attracted may be polite but doesn't meet your escalation with equal emotional energy. Desire motivates her to maintain momentum, to keep the interaction alive, and to avoid letting the connection stagnate. This reciprocity isn't necessarily conscious. It often emerges from instinctive responses to intimacy. Attraction creates a rhythm, and when both sides are aligned, escalation flows naturally. Women rarely reciprocate emotional or physical depending unless they feel safe, intrigued, and drawn to the man. The final and often most misunderstood indicator of sexual attraction is a selective access, her willingness to give you part of her time, attention, and emotional world that she doesn't offer to just anyone. This may show through exclusive invitations, private conversations, increased emotional closeness in quiet moments, or the subtle ways she opens her life to you. She may invite you into her routines, share personal dilemmas, involve you in decisions, or allow you to see her in vulnerable states. Tired, stressed, unflirted, or emotionally raw. Selective access is a psychological signal of trust and desire because it reflects prioritization. A woman who offers depth and privacy is implicitly communicating that she views the connection as meaningful and potentially intimate. Men often misinterpret this as friendliness or ecstasy, but in reality it represents a major emotional investment. Sexual attraction doesn't always announce itself through bold behavior. Sometimes it reveals itself through quiet permissions when she lets you into spaces she guards from others. It signifies a level of interest that extends beyond a casual attraction and into genuine emotional desire. Thank you for watching. Until the end, see you soon.